framework paper, the GDP figure is not explicitly stated. The gross domestic product is stated in the budget framework paper on page 15 as 251 trillion 68. Even that's what the minister said. An increase from 202 trillion in the last year budget framework paper. In his written submission to the budget committee dated January 20th, Minister of State for General Duties, the Honorable Musasi, states on page 2 that GDP is estimated to grow, just estimated to grow to 251 trillion. The GDP figure given by the Honorable Musasi is just a forecast. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics puts the GDP at 226 trillion as of last year. And when you calculate the debt to GDP ratio of 51 given on page 20 of the budget framework paper, it gives you 226 trillion as Uganda's GDP, which is 63 billion US dollar. It is therefore wrong for finance to give 251 trillion, which is a forecast, as the GDP figure. There is always a desire by the NRM leaders to exaggerate the country's growth, which is the reason they recalculate the GDP unnecessarily. Conflicting public debt figures. The Minister of Finance gives total public debt figure as 116 trillion, which is 32 billion US dollar on page 20. This finance says is an increase from 94.7 trillion, which is 26 billion, translating into a debt to GDP ratio of 51%. This debt to GDP figure is calculated using the UBOS 226 trillion, what they give in the budget framework paper, as the true GDP figures. Just for emphasis, the stock of public debt is 116 trillion and GDP is 226. Those are the figures that finance is using. However, the Bank of Uganda, in its December 2025 State of the Economy report on page 10, puts public debt at 124 trillion, translating into a 54.8 debt to GDP ratio. You can see the trick here. You lower the figure of public debt and exaggerate GDP to present a lower GDP to a lower debt to GDP ratio. Then you ask Parliament to authorize more borrowing on the pretext of a sustained public debt stock. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, public debt is plunging Uganda into a crisis. The NRM government plans to borrow over 18.5 trillion from the domestic market, commercial banks, to finance the budget. The 8.9 trillion will be new loans to finance the budget and 9.6 trillion to roll over maturing debt. The central bank is concerned with the domestic debt to private sector credit. By overborrowing from commercial banks, the NRM government is crowding out the private sector. The concern of Bank of Uganda is captured on page 10 of their December State of the Economy. If you look at the private credit now, I think it's about 21 trillion, and government is borrowing sometimes up to 19 trillion. So you are competing with the citizens that you want to empower. You remove all the money, they have nothing. Our borrowing from commercial banks starves the private sector, which is employing more than 85% of the population. Ratio of interest to revenue correction. One of the fiscal rules in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility is reduction of total domestic debt interest payment to revenue, excluding grants, to 12.5%. The government plans to spend 28.6 trillion on debt servicing next financial year, of which 12.7 trillion is interest payment. The interest payment for the domestic debt is 10.7 trillion, which is 26.7% of the projected 40 trillion revenue correction. The target is 12, but you are going to pay interest of 26. And this matter is a matter of law. The rule in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility is reduction of interest payment on domestic debt 12.5% of revenue. But the budget framework paper interest payment will instead raise to 26. I hope Parliament will resist this. The Minister of Finance also agrees that such an elevated debt service burden shrinks fiscal space, leaving fewer resources available for discretionary spending in high multiplier multiplier growth enhancing sectors, and the committee noted that proposals in the budget framework paper offend even common sense. If you look at page 19 of the budget framework paper, the NRM government, the minister is praising here, wants to borrow from external sources 10 trillion to finance various projects. Certainly that will increase our debt stock as a country and will violate the rules we set ourselves out in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. The question is, have we utilized the numerous loans we have contracted to finance various projects for us to contract more? The answer is a big no. And I want to thank the Minister of Finance. They have been very generous with information. If you read the July 2025 report on the performance of externally funded projects, you will know why you have remained poor. You also know the dangers of employing old people in critical offices, knowing their biological inadequacies. When people grow old, every part of the body slows naturally. Even the thinking slows down. They begin to think in installments. Many of the projects for which we have borrowed gross sums of money are either behind schedule or have completely stagnated. And here we are being asked to recklessly approve further borrowing. I now turn to the Minister of Finance report on externally funded projects. The Minister of Finance has been monitoring performance of these projects and done some reports. The latest report samples 66 externally funded projects, as the table below illustrates. We have borrowed money to finance projects. Even in this budget, they are saying we should borrow another 10 trillion. But look, the table. The projects in agro-industrialization, 7 projects here, only 2 have been completed. 1 is on track, others behind schedule. Digital transformation, 2, 1 on track. Human capital development, 14 projects, only 1 completed, 1 on track, 12 are behind schedule. Integrated transport infrastructure and services, 12 projects for which we have borrowed money, only 2 completed, 1 on track, 18 behind schedule. I don't need to go, but the total below is that you have a total here of 66 projects sampled by finance. Only 6 are completed, 5 on track, 55 of these projects are behind schedule, including ones that you will see that have stagnated. And I'll give a list here. I'll be very brief because this is not my list. It is a list of Honorable Musasis. Kampala Jinja Expressway. We borrowed money to do this road. And I will go to the last line. This is how finance has assessed this. The physical progress of the project is 0. Money borrowed, progress is 0. They are saying, let us borrow more. That's what is in the budget framework paper. Busega Mpigi Expressway. Construction is at 46%. This road was supposed to have been completed years ago. They are at 46%. Part of the reason you will see, they are saying they don't have counter funding. And then they are saying, let us borrow and begin more projects. That's why I said you even offend common sense. Entebbe airport rehabilitation. This one, there is progress. But the point is, because of the delays, we are now required to pay to the contractor the total sum of 34.9 million US dollar because we delayed. So the contractor says, you delayed here and here, pay me money. Even this one, although progressing, it was never delivered on time. The Bukasa project port, this one hasn't started at all, still in the preliminary. Kampala flyover construction, finance says it has stagnated. Kampala city roads rehabilitation, they are now revising it. The time elapsed, they are revising it. And you know each revision comes with money. Multinational Kapchorwa, Suyam, Kitare and Eldoret bypass. This one has almost been completed, but after a delay. Change Johoima Masindi Chigumba Road. The project have not been completed, more money is needed. National Lake Victoria Maritime Communication Transport Project. Here, overall progress is from 37 to by the end of April. So all these projects, they have delayed, no counter funding, they are contracting more. Ruwero Butarang Road, work is at 67%. A road that they started nearly 10 years ago, they haven't completed. Short stretch. Moyo, Yumbe, Koboko Road project. And you keep asking, why does the president repeat these roads in every budget? The progress, as you have seen, on some projects, it is zero. So every year he repeats, you think government is working. Namagunga Budadiri Narugugu Road project. The progress of the project was at 4% against a planned 4.3. This one is still in infancy. The Northeastern Road Corridor Asset Management Project. Maybe I don't have to read each and every project that is here. But you need members to interact with these projects. And I am saying in this minority report, as I try to conclude, that we borrow money to do projects for which we pay a lot of money in interest, and we never complete this work. Part of the reason, no counter funding. Anyone who's sensible, you will not be contracting more loans when you don't have counter funding to finish the ones that you have undertaken. You will see there is one here for private sector. I think I will stop with that one. Which is project 22. Investment for industrial transformation and employment project. The investment for industrial transformation and employment is a collaborative program between the government of Uganda, represented by Ministry of Finance, Bank of Uganda, private sector, and the development partners. So this project borrowed 218 million US dollar. The idea was that the project starts in 2022 and ends 2027. However, due to delays in approval, the project effectiveness date was 13th November 2023 and the closing date is 31st January 2027. The project stagnated, targeted to benefit 140,000 medium, small and macro enterprises and 120,000 refugees. Of these, at least 40,000 expected to be women-led macro enterprises. The larger sized firms also benefit from the intervention. The overall project performance was poor at approximately 0.3% and significantly behind the schedule. Even where you want to borrow money to help companies that are employing people, you don't utilize it. And then you come to Parliament, you say, can we borrow more? I don't know, maybe the owner of Musasi's enjoys the word borrowing. So if he ever brings a report that doesn't have the word borrowing, he will feel very bad. You have electricity access scale-up project, same problem. Upgrade of health centers, 2 to 3, same problem, behind schedule. Uganda secondary education expansion project, money borrowed, project not making progress. I am saying in this report, don't allow them to borrow until they have completed and made progress on these ones, or else you'll just be enlarging the list. You borrow money, you pay. When you are looking at the report on loans, you will discover we pay commitment fees on money unutilized, which money we need to do other things that are being listed here.
Ssemuju, can you read the report?
If I read the report, I will delay because now I am concluding. If you want me, Mr. Speaker, I can read the report.
If you had read it,
I will delay. I am concluding now. I am on page 15, which is the last one, on rate of employment and unemployment. The committee notes that actually this information is not given, yet is a requirement by the law. One of the economic variables, the budget framework paper is supposed to address the rate of employment and unemployment in the country. This is what Schedule 3 of the law demands. Without providing any basis, the Minister of Finance states on page 16 of the framework paper that one of the macroeconomic objectives of government next financial year is to increase the stock of new jobs to about 800,000. The figure of how many jobs they created this or last year is not given. Just throwing figures around. The target of government in the NDP3 was to create 512,000 jobs annually. Like other NRM targets, this was never made. Maybe they have only made the one of staying in power. National Planning Authority in an Empowerment and Skills Status Report 2022 reported that the yearly net job creation averaged 320,000 against a target of 500,000. This is too little considering that every year 700,000 Ugandans join the job market. If you look at the figures of PAYE and NSSF, there are just about 2.5 million formal jobs which keep fluctuating. The public sector, as you are aware, employs just 400,000 and the rest are in private sector. National Planning Authority estimates 15.8 million to be of the working age and 13 million of these are in the private sector. The Igbo census report puts the figure of the working age going by the labor policy of 2011 to about 24 million. The planning authority says the quality of jobs in Uganda remains low, with 78% of the labor force engaged in vulnerable employment characterized with low pay and job insecurity. Uganda, according to NPA and World Bank reports, has the lowest business survival rate in the world. Only 1 out of the 4 farms remain operational after the first years of existence. This is what budget must address, but it is being mentioned in passing in the usual NRM business as usual casual manner. Younger people need jobs, and you cannot respond to this demand by violence and prison. Hundreds demanding quality life have been brutalized and imprisoned during this electoral period. Mr. Speaker, you know Sam Mugumya, we've been told he is being held by the army, very sick. Maybe you're not even sure if he has not died. So this is the response of the NRM. When people are demanding for work, prison. The NPA notes that while official figures show that unemployment reduced from 11 to 9 and 8.8%, in absolute terms, unemployment persists as a result of many Ugandans engaged in vulnerable employment, which is often characterized by low productivity. That's why our girls mainly are being trafficked to Middle East to work as housemaids. The boys who remain here are being marched to Ruzira, Chitaria, and Kigo for disturbing the judges. The World Bank, in its July 2025 Human Capital Development and Growth Review, says Uganda is failing to harness 61% of its human capital for socio-economic development. Mr. Speaker, I am only emphasizing information which the Honorable Mr. Asizi has given, and I thank him, which the committee has given, but they are shying away. They are saying, you, regardless of the non-compliance, please approve the framework paper. These are the dangers that you face. I ask you, honorable members, to reject this framework paper. They go and they do it. First, to comply with the law, and second, to comply with common sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Shadow Minister. I'll request the Minister of Finance if he has any responses which would want to make, which can guide us during debate.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to appreciate the Majority Committee of the Budget and the other sectoral committees for the deep analysis they have done on our budget framework paper. I also wish to thank Honorable Ssemuju, the Shadow Minister of Finance, for strengthening and emphasizing some of the points which we made in our report. Mr. Speaker, it is true that our public debt is projected to go beyond 50% minimum target. But Mr. Speaker, this is not the problem. Why? Because our numbers continue to show that our debt obligations are manageable now and also in the long term. we have not failed to pay on any commitment as and when it falls due. Mr. Speaker, on debt, the focus of all of us should be, what are we borrowing for? If we are borrowing to invest in the economy, there is no problem. If we are borrowing to grow our GDP, there is no problem. It becomes a problem when we are borrowing for luxury.
There's no work going on. Kindly open this road for a time being. When you resume work, then business goes back to what you want. But imagine for 4 years, 4 years, we are going through MPG. And the tarmac within MPG will not be given consideration when the road is worked on. So what do we lose? Because they have put permanent fixtures on the road, vehicles which have had accidents are placed on the road, but within your powers and the Ministry of Works, sit and agree, open for us this road. Otherwise, the jam we are facing is too much. Mr. Speaker, sir, I do pray and seek, since you and the Minister of Finance, Ssemuju Nganda, agree on this minority report, some of the areas, why don't you sit and agree on some of the issues raised in the minority report? The moment you take that, you solve problems of this institution. It's very painful whenever a budget proposal brought here, Mr. Speaker, and after passing the budget, nothing is implemented. The challenge goes on the members of parliament. The same members did not support the budget. But we as the institution, as an arm of government, we give you all the support you want. What makes you fail to get counter funding? Is it parliament or the weaknesses on your side? That question is between you and your office and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, sir, borrowing, non-performing loans. I don't know how much I can talk about. I am very interested in talking about teachers and their salaries with the commitment given by government. But should I come on the floor and say we should also borrow money for financing salaries? It shouldn't be me in this suit I'm putting on. So, but, Mr. Speaker, for me I don't have more than what I can say from the minority report. It's the duty of the Ministry of Finance and your team. Look what is in the minority report. Look what members have raised, so that we avoid every time going for supplementaries. Yet the planning is on your side. Mr. Speaker, that's what I can say. But the issue of Massacre Road, since both of us, Mr. Speaker, use the same road, there is nothing wrong by opening up that road for a time being, and when you resume your contract, your road, then you close it as you work.
We have provided money, now they should resume work and finish. Yeah? You remember we passed a loan here. Yes, Honorable Minister Muril Mukasa.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate you and the rest of the members here for having gone through a very hectic election exercise, and for you who succeeded, congratulations, and those that didn't, there's still another time. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the Minister for presenting this budget framework paper. It's very good. However, when I looked at it, I found there's one big element which was not included, maybe by oversight, maybe not, and that is the enhancement of salaries, particularly for the arts teachers and the local government workers. We've been here many times on the floor of Parliament over this issue of enhancement, and as a government we made commitments. We made commitments to the teachers, the unions and so on. Yes, that come the next financial year there would be some enhancement. However, when I saw it here, there was nothing. I saw 000. That does not augur well. We presented a budget
to the Ministry of Finance, not only for the teachers, but for the entire workforce. Some of the workers there have not been enhanced since 2014. And actually, the category of workers who have enhanced is about 34% of the entire workforce. 66% has not had enhancement. Yet, the public servant, if we look at the whole thing as in machines, the software, if we want all these programs for economic development, very first one, I think we cannot afford to ignore the public servant who is going to put all these things into effect. Let's have a service that is well remunerated very well and properly motivated, and then some of these developments we want will move very fast. I wish to implore the Ministry of Finance that in the next budget circular that is coming, surely that aspect of enhancement, particularly of the teachers and the local government workers, is not left out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Honourable Minister, I don't know whether the second budget code circular comes to Cabinet, but I would urge that also be alert in Cabinet, because whatever comes here is from Cabinet. So be alert and we ensure we don't miss out.
Thank you very much for that prompt. I've actually been alert, and my colleague here is aware that when it comes to that, I've never slept.
Yeah.
However, for some reason or other, and they promise that they are going to do something, but when it comes here, there's nothing. But one thing must be clear, really, and let it be known. The remuneration of workers is important. If we are going to have this rapid economic development, we must have a properly remunerated workforce, and then we shall see the results. Challenge us.
Thank you.
Let's have this money, and you see our performance. If we don't perform, then you'll be right not to raise our money. But challenge us.
Thank you.
And I promise, give us this money, and the performance will be superb. Thank you very much.
And Honourable Minister, count on us here. We shall join hands with you and the Minister of Finance to ensure this is achieved. Honourable Minister for Finance, if you could start with that point, it would be even the happiest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of salaries for teachers and other government workers is a matter dear and known to us. But the President has always asked, in a situation where we can't do everything at a go, what do we start with? The prioritization element in budgeting. Do we borrow to pay teachers? Honorable Ssemuju was asking. So, Mr. Speaker, this budget, Mr. Speaker, my main role is in the budget is to show you how much money I have in a given financial year, and together we agree on how to spend it. Mr. Speaker, after the next stage, we will go back to Cabinet to seek approval of estimates of revenue and expenditure. And by that time, we will ask Cabinet we'll put to Cabinet's attention the concerns Parliament has raised, and we get their guidance. At this point, I cannot commit. I will make a commitment after Cabinet has given me authorization. Mr. Speaker, mainly three things. One, Honorable Isaac is concerned that the resource envelope has declined 69, and he hopes this will not change. Mr. Speaker, in my motion, I said this